We get this question all the time. Hey, I'm in the market to get my first house. How do you think people should go about it in today's day and age with these increased interest rates, competitive market to a degree? It's hard to find good deals. I felt you when you said the whole thing about it's hard to find a good deal as an investor. Yeah. How do you think people should go about it in 2024?
You want to buy in the best neighborhood, and you want the ugliest worst. You want the ugly duckling, right? Like,
Gotcha.
Same way with dating. You don't want to chase the girl who's got thirst traps all over the Instagram. You want to find the girl that looks really good, but no one can tell because she covers up. She's not dressed to get that attention. Houses are like that too. You want to find the house with the worst pictures that somebody didn't want to pay their real estate agent good money for, so they just took pictures with their cell phone, or it's occupied by a tenant, so nobody could even get inside there to be able to see what it looks like, and it's sitting on the market for 200 days. You're going to look a lot longer to find that, and then when you buy it, you're probably going to have to be creative about how you create income. It's the whole like buy a house, get a tenant, be done was great until now. It isn't going to work. You're going to have to rent the rooms out individually. You're going to have to live in it and rent out spaces in that house. You might have to put up some drywall, build a kitchenette, and say, I created a duplex because I couldn't find a duplex that was on the market. What used to work was we just had to convince people to buy real estate and put a tenant in, and the tenant took care of your debt. There's a handful of markets where you can do that, not that many. And that advice doesn't work across the board for every guy, because you live where you live, you work where you work. You got to buy real estate wherever that's going to be. But oftentimes I find that when people say buying is more expensive than renting, it's only in that first year. 5 years of rent increases makes buying way cheaper than renting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's taking that long-term approach.
So people need to be very creative, you would say, now, if they want to get into real estate game at this point. You mentioned a couple things. Getting a house that's in a good neighborhood, but might not be the best looking, right? Being creative with finding ways to get tenants in and renting all the spaces out, etc. What about from a financing perspective? Obviously, interest rates are higher. It's harder to make deals work or cash flow, which you gave a way to deal with that with getting more tenants and finding creative ways to increase your cash flow. But how should people go about financing now with interest rates being double what they were 4 years ago?
Interest rates are going to be what interest rates are. Because when rates come down, which they're starting to right now, we're starting to see rates are coming down.
Yeah.
It just means they're
Roughly
in the sixes.
Sixes?
Yeah, like 6.5, maybe a little bit lower if you buy it down some. But when they come down to the 5s or the high 4s, you're just going to see prices skyrocket. You're never going to get this perfect market.
Right.
You have to just accept you're doing this for the long run. It might still be expensive to own that house, but you control your financial future when you own that home. If you think about you're paying $2,500 in rent to rent a house right now, and it's going to be $3,000 to buy that home. Well, if rents go up by just $100 a month, you were paying 25, now you're paying 26, 27, 28, 29. When you own the home, now someone's paying you 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. You're actually winning on both sides, because you stop the damage from getting worse on you by rents going up, and you benefit from rents going up by actually owning the asset. But it won't be amazing for you when you first buy the house. It's a delayed gratification. You have to wait longer. Some markets, when the prices go up, you'll gain on the equity in the home. Other markets, you'll gain on the rent going up and you'll gain on cash flow. So when you're buying out of state, like we do, you can pick the market that you think is going to work for what you want. But if you're just a regular person who's getting up every day and working at UPS that's trying to buy a house, it is what it is.
I hate to say this, but I want to ask you this question because I've kind of noticed that I've had to do this myself. I'm picking up deals right now, or like the last few deals that I've picked up, where I'm cash flowing, but not nearly as much. And even on one of them, I'm like damn near breaking even, very little cash flow. Do you think people need to kind of accept dealing with that for a bit? Because like some of the tenants I picked up in it like already had leases in place, which actually one of them just expired I think today, so I got to raise their rent. Angie reminded me, but like, would you say with today's real estate market and the interest rates being a bit higher and harder to find deals, etc., is it in people's benefit to kind of look long term and be like, look, might not be cash flowing as much, or maybe I'm even breaking even, but I own the asset, I control the asset, rents are going to go up at some point, I just need to be patient?
I think that's your only option. I would say,
wow. Okay.
I would say no, wait, if I thought prices were going to come down.
Okay.
But we covered that to start the show. I can't see a scenario that's going to push prices down unless we somehow 3D print homes and you can make them super cheap and they just start throwing houses up everywhere. Anything outside of that it's either do that and win in the long run, or don't do anything and inflation's just going to eat up your wealth.
So
Yeah, getting turnkey, I've noticed it's significantly harder because when in 2020, I was buying houses fucking turnkey, no problem. They're cash flowing, awesome. Woo, interest rate is low. Even if they're requesting, $20,000 over asking price, not that big a deal because the interest rate is so goddamn low, 3%, 4%, whatever it may be. But now with the interest rates being so high, double what they were, and then rent has it's not going up as much because obviously
people can't afford to pay it because everything else is more expensive.
Exactly. So it's like almost to a point where it's like, okay, you could pick up a house, but you're not going to cash flow as much as you did maybe 4 years ago because interest rates have went up and the rents haven't really went up as much to deal with that increased interest rate. So, okay, yeah. So you're saying like, hey, you might have to deal with that for like a year or two.
So I have friends that stop buying real estate and they're going the Airbnb route. Now, they don't buy the property, they just kind of like sublease it and then rent it out.
Yeah, they call that arbitrage.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Is that a good way to go about things nowadays or not really?
You're doing a lot of work and you still have some risk because you got to pay that lease even if you can't rent the property out.
Yeah.
And you're getting none of the benefits of real estate other than what you're hoping is cash flow. You're not gaining equity. You're not paying off a loan. You're not getting tax benefits. You don't see the future upside of that property. You're doing all the work just to try. You basically bought yourself a job that has some risk. I would bet the majority of people doing that would make more money if they just got a W-2 job that was better and they wouldn't have the risk of possibly losing money.
Okay.
It's just everyone hates the idea of a W-2 job right now. It's like so hard to get people to recognize if you go to work and you work every day like it's the last day of tryouts and you don't want to get cut, your boss is forced to recognize that.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then there's another company that would love to hire you that's going to need people, right? Like as a business owner myself, I recognize that. I see people complain there's no good jobs. I think businesses are complaining I can't find anybody that wants to work hard, and we're just missing each other.
So guys, quick word from our sponsor real fast. You know we don't mess around when it comes to leveling up, and that goes for your coffee too. If you're still drinking that sugary shit, you're already started your morning off wrong. 1775 Coffee's protein creamer is what real men use to start their day. 10 grams of whey protein per serving, designed to build muscle and boost metabolism. Most people are tossing whey protein into their coffee, but we took it a step further and made a creamer with whey protein already built in, no added sugar, just protein. They just dropped this protein creamer along with a whole new lineup. In addition to the classic dark and medium roast, you'll find new coffee pods and a brain-boosting mushroom blend that'll have you focus like a sniper locked in on CNN. Don't start your morning funding the woke mob and dumping garbage into your body. Do it right with 1775 Coffee. Use code FRESH to get 15% off. Guys, I'm drinking 1775 Coffee right now, man. As we walk it like we talk it over here, guys, and they got one that has a protein blend, man. So definitely go show them support.
Sub to the channel.
Shout out to 1775 Coffee.
I think we've been sold the bill that 9-to-5s are bad. So generally speaking, people want to be streamers, online creators, which granted, it's a different type of like work ethic, but people don't want to work 9-to-5s anymore. So yeah, you're right.
Well, who do you think sold us that 9-to-5s are bad? Where do you think that came from?
Online gurus and
that's exactly right.
And a bunch of creators that want to make money off of courses.
That's exactly right. They paint a different version of reality, also called a delusion, to get you to buy into a dream. It never works, but you just keep hoping and hoping and hoping. And that is a very similar pattern to the women that you guys have on here after hours. I keep thinking that some dude is going to show up and not care about all the stuff that they do and not care about their attitude. And he's going to see something special in them. And if they just wait, it's going to come along. We have men that do the exact same thing in the job market because they would rather believe in that hope than just accept, like, if you just get good at things and build a skill, you'll control your destiny.
Yeah, I think some guys can make it out and definitely do that, but not everyone can do that. Some people do need a 9-to-5. So
at least for a time. Myron started with the 9-to-5. I've heard him talk. He's and I have never talked about our personal histories, but we would have been friends in law enforcement because I know you worked your ass off. You were that guy that got up like, do you need it? I'll do it.
Yeah.
You did it as fast as you could do it, as good as you could do it with as little mistakes as possible. You built a work ethic that built confidence, that helped you see patterns in what makes people successful, or you learned a lot of stuff. You built skills at reading people that helped you to have the position you're at right now. If you're one of those lazy pieces of shit that just sit around and always say, I don't want to take the report, I don't want to do the work. Those are the people that get stuck in that position and they can never get out of it because they don't build the skills that are going to help them when they want to be an entrepreneur or whatever they want to do.
And they complain when they get passed over for promotions too. Those people every single time.
That's exactly right.
So all right, so I guess with the so let's talk about Airbnb a bit because you actually are pretty well into the Airbnb game. You know, obviously I'm a real estate buy and hold kind of guy, But with Airbnb, tell us, because you actually are in a section of Airbnb that's very interesting. You actually buy higher cost property.
Yeah.
And which normally would never make sense if you're going to be like a long-term real estate investor and you know regular tenants. But you get nice luxury properties and you Airbnb it. Can you kind of describe to the people how you go about it, what prompted this idea, and how that overall system works?
So it's like 10 years or maybe longer now, almost 15 of investing in real estate. You start to see patterns in how markets play out over time. So I'm working on a book right now that I'm going to publish about the 10 ways you make money in real estate. There's like 10 different formats. 4 of them are cash flow, 4 of them are equity, and then you have loan pay down and taxes. What you notice is that the houses that will appreciate the most are the rarest, and they're where rich people want to be. So wherever Patrick Bet David bought his house, I'm sure he's surrounded by wealthy people that when there's a recession, they're going to be the most resilient. They're smarter. They have diversified their income. They own businesses. They can adjust.
Want to fuck them as much.
Yeah, not nearly as much as the person who's just given up all control over his finances to someone that he works for and he doesn't pay any attention at all. And when there's cuts, you get cut and there's nothing you can do. That's the best place to own real estate. However, it is priced so high that rents will never cover what you actually have to bring in to pay the mortgage unless you put an insane amount of money down. And now you're just getting incredibly low ROI on your cash. So if you're investing for cash flow, you cannot buy in most markets that are above C, maybe C+. You're just not investing in markets that are going to appreciate a lot in order to get cash flow. But that's the safest way to invest, right? So I started to notice that with Airbnb, you can make more money on a property, but it comes with more effort, more time, and more risk, to be frank. But if you want to get into the best neighborhoods and see that long-term appreciation and like be safest so that when there's a recession, those properties don't go down nearly as much, you have to either give up cash flow or take on the extra work of managing an Airbnb. And it's more like running a business. And it's just like, you probably don't pay attention to your properties that often. Someone manages them. They ask you for permission. You say yes, they go make the thing. You focus on making your podcast. You want to get into short-term rentals. It's more like running a business. You're going to have to pay attention to it.
Gotcha.
Damn.
Gotcha.
Now, for me,
it's more hands-on.
Way more hands-on
than having long-term tenants.
Yeah, it's like basically it's like running a business where if I sell you tacos, I need to get a Yelp review that says you like my tacos, or no one else is going to come get these tacos. You're constantly fighting to get a 5-star review.
Marketing.
You're dealing with people that have figured out that if they make complaints about bullshit, that they can kind of hold it over your head because they know that you need that 5-star review. Things are breaking all the time. Your cleaners are sometimes showing up, sometimes not showing up. Like I showed up at the Airbnb that I have in Fort Lauderdale whenever I come record with you guys. The cleaner's hair is all over the property, right? Somebody sees that, they're going to be pissed off. We're going to be throwing money at them to fix it. We have to hire another cleaner. It is way more work to do it. The upside is you can buy real estate in the best locations that you never could have if you were just trying to buy a multifamily property or something cheap that cash flows.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you were describing this to me before, I think you had mentioned to me how you were picking up a property in Arizona. You had one in Arizona, a really nice property.
Yeah.
And I remember you told me like what it costs a month, and I was like, holy crap! Like there's no way you could put a tenant in there and it'll make sense. But then you're like, well, hey, this is where Airbnb comes in. I'm like, okay, that makes sense because since the debt service is so high because the property's so nice, we're talking, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month.
No, this one's like $20,000.
$20,000, holy shit! $20K a month to service that debt. So this is a multi-million-dollar property. You're going to need constant people from Airbnb to kind of not only cover that, but
competing with everyone else that has a luxury property in Scottsdale for this $2,000 a night person that's going to stay in your property. So you're always looking at it constantly. We need to get better pictures taken. We need to add an amenity to the property. We have to spend $25,000 to build out a movie theater because the other ones have something like that.
Oh shit!
Like, you kind of have to have capital to be able to play that game, just like if you're going to buy a business. But what's the upside? That property in a year and a half that we've owned it has appreciated $1.5 million.
Is that property more of a play for equity and appreciation versus actual cash flow? Like, because I'm sure there's probably slow seasons where people aren't, renting an Airbnb. What's kind of the play with that one, or is it?
It was intended to be a cash flow property. That's why we bought it. There's just a lot of other people that bought it in Scottsdale. I think what happened is a lot of people made a lot of money in the last 8 years, sold. Now they have capital gains. They don't want to pay capital gains.
Yup.
They got 500 grand they need to put somewhere. Where are you going to put it? Scottsdale, Arizona looks good. South Florida looks good. So what happens is these more expensive markets are attracting all of the equity that was built in other markets that
Gotcha.
people are now moving. So when
Got
we
the hell out of California, got the hell out of New York, got the hell out of Massachusetts. We're going to Arizona. We're going to Florida. We're going to Texas. We're going
That's
to
exactly
Nevada.
right. So it hurt our cash flow because we had more competition from other people, but it also helped our equity because these people keep coming in driving up the prices, right?
Yes.
So there's
yes.
this balance where you're like, I have to make enough cash flow to not lose it, but I'm going to make my real money from equity and buying in the right markets. That it's like an organism that you're always kind of managing. It's not just like a static when you're buying duplexes and you just forget that they exist.
Ebbs and flows.
100%.
And then since it's residential is so contingent upon comparables that these people come in, it kind of works in your favor because they build a movie theater, right? That increases the value of that house. Now you got to build a movie theater. So yours goes. And
So my equity goes up,
Yeah.
but I don't make money as easily, and my ROI went down because I had to spend $25,000 to build the theater, which means money has to be coming in from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have a business now.
Yeah.
Well, real estate and businesses work really good because if you're a real estate professional, you can shelter the income from your
Hell
businesses with the real estate you buy. So now you start looking at it holistically instead of I wanted to buy a couple of properties and quit my job. And real estate still makes sense.